Live coverage of the Guaranteed Rate Bassmaster Elite at Santee Cooper Lakes is sponsored by Rapala.
Stop number 3 of the 2022 Bassmaster Elite Series, and we are in the great state of South Carolina once again. Clarendon County, South Carolina, on the incredible chain of lakes that has given so much history to the Bassmasters. Santee Cooper Lakes to be in fact, let's get the wheels back on this. A guy that has definitely got the wheels on this tournament, Drew Cook, your tournament leader, said to me in the dock this morning, he said, hey, if I can just catch him on day one, I feel I can win a tournament, because he has an incredible track record of coming back in events. But wow, did he ever catch him. So far, 26 pounds, 10 ounces, but look out for the champ with 21 pounds, 4 ounces. Hank Cherry has 21 pounds, 4 ounces, and last we heard of him, he was looking at a 7 and a 9. So things could get pretty crazy, and that is a look of our playing field here, Santee Cooper Lakes, in the low country of South Carolina, and we are located right there on Lake Marion, right at the midway point, and just as we went live here, the sun started to shine. All of a sudden, life is good, and I'm back with the Bassmaster Classic champion, 2-time Angler of the Year, and Bass Fishing Hall of Famer, Davey Height, and we are literally in your backyard.
Yeah, I really love it here. Obviously, the Santee Cooper chain of lake. Clarendon County has been so good to bass through the years. It's great to be back here. The fishing is phenomenal. 26 pounds for Drew Cook already, and still most of the better part of the day, I think, for a lot of these anglers are relying on the afternoon bite. So absolutely an incredible start here, but not surprising.
Especially the better part of the day with the sun starting to shine out. But let's catch up on our day so far with our Toyota Midday Report. And no better person to start with than our day one leader the last time we were here. Carl Jacobson's got great history here. Finished second here the last time we were here.
Yep, Carl Jacobson. We watched him all morning. You see there a wacky worm, a Cinco, some type of soft plastic around these cypress trees, something that a lot of folks do with a lot of success here on Lake Marion. Carl with a little slower start this morning than we thought, but he's in an area you can just look at the water clarity there. That has definitely changed in the last few days. So where Carl may have, started this morning probably looks a lot different than it did the last day of practice for him. He told us that he had a good final afternoon of practice. Maybe the afternoon will be much, much better for him.
Oh, speaking of better, life is better when Mike Iaconelli is on the Bassmaster Elite Series.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike got off to a good start this morning, fishing in the backwater, fishing these dollar pads, not the big lily pads like you see in some other areas, but these isolated patches of dollar pads. You see that good fish there for him this morning, and he's a guy that shows his emotions. He does not keep them inside, and he certainly got fired up this morning, Santee Cooper, because you're going to have a couple of those here at Santee Cooper. Not just one, but you're going to have a couple like that. So we'll see better things, I think, from what he's doing. We'll see better things from Mike Iaconelli in the afternoon.
They got to try to take the title away from this guy, Brandon Palnick. He took the title the last time we were here in 2020.
Yeah, Brandon came from behind last time we were here to take the title, like you mentioned, but this morning he did not start from behind. This morning, right out of the gate, like in the first 5 minutes, he had 3 true Santee Cooper, I wouldn't say giants, but ones that you can bring to the scales. You need that 4+ pounder to bring to the scales here at Santee if you think you're going to have a chance to win. Brandon Palnick doing something a little different than you're going to see most of these guys this week, fishing a jerkbait, a Rapala jerkbait. Offshore, 5 to 15 feet. Isolated brush piles and then some standing timber still left in the lake. But got off to a great start, slowed down a little bit, picked up a jig. First cast with a jig a little later this morning. Brandon caught his 4th fish. Another good one there. So he catches 5. He'll only need 5 because he's definitely getting the right kind of bite. It's like a mop jig there.
Palnick catching him in a different way than many expected coming into this event. But let's get out on the water live with our progressive Bassmaster Angler of the Year leader, David Mullins.
Get up in here. I was just sitting there saying, well, let's fish 10 more minutes and go, and then freaking get a bite. So, whatever. I'll take him.
Got 5.
Look, he caught that fish off the bed. First one I've seen that we've had a live camera on to catch one off the bed this
He wasn't big as
morning.
I thought. He's just so shallow. I mean, he's a decent one, but when they're that shallow, it's hard to tell. He's like a 2.5 though.
Walter had a big Bassmaster Classic. Well, really, only one guy had a bigger Bassmaster Classic, and that is our reigning and defending Classic champion, Jason Christie. Get out on the water with him live right now.
Tried it again.
How fun is it to watch Jason Christie?
Finally! Finally! Golly! 5 hours later. Finally. Finally. Dang it. You would think the Bassmaster Classic champ would have a little more luck than what we're having. It's like, hey, dude. Welcome to the real world. That was last tournament. All right. I learned something on that fish there. Like, he didn't bite my bait good the first time I missed him, and he didn't bite it good the second time. So I need to slow down, put the reeling frog away, and just fish. Slow and steady.
Davey, hey, you've been
Like
there, you've experienced it.
If you look on my
How?
GPS, like right there is where I started catching them all the way to the backside of this island. One thing I did in practice was, I feel like if I got a bite, I would get more.
How tough is it? You win the Classic. I mean, I can only imagine how busy he's been. But how tough is it to refocus at the next event?
Oh, it's extremely tough. I really can't even relate to it. Even though I won a Classic, that's when we had the summertime Classic, so there was a break in between there. And even with a couple months before you start back the season, it was tough to focus. And that's a big reason why, in my opinion, it's so important to continue to give the reigning Classic champion the automatic bid for the next year. Because if it is so hard to focus, and it's really your time to pay back your sponsors and work for them as much as you can. Because you're the reigning world champion, and sponsors that have been with Jason Christie or whatever angler or Hank Cherry, that it's really a time that I think they can really capitalize on you, and you should spend a lot of time working for them.
Well, Jason Christie's been very, very busy. Not the last few hours, but that fish right there, that'll get you focused in a hurry. A big topwater bite like that. And Hark the Herald. What is that I hear? It is the Power Pole replay of the day music. Davey Height, talk me through it.
Oh, well, the Power Pole replay of the day has to be Jason Christie, the reigning world champion just of a few weeks ago at Lake Hartwell in South Carolina. But when Jason Christie has got a frog in his hand, whether it was last year before he had won the Bassmaster Classic or now that he is the Bassmaster Classic champion, we all want to watch Jason Christie with a frog in his hand. And you saw him miss that fish and then catch the fish when it came back the second time. Great camera work there. It doesn't get any better than our cameramen and women out on the water covering these events. Incredible footage, incredible coverage, and the incredible Jason Christie. You are a Power Pole replay of the day.
The Power Pole replay of the day is so much cooler when it's your reigning Bassmaster Classic champion. And I'm sure Jason Christie would agree right now. He's on the water. His camera guy today, Jake Latondras, who spent the entire Classic with him. So they're trying to keep their streak going.
Wow. Had dinner with Jason and some other friends last night. Man, can he eat some crab legs and some sausage and some shrimp. I mean, for a pretty small guy, I mean, he's tall, but thin guy, he can sure eat a lot of that low country boil.
He's a pro athlete. He's getting ready for.
Yep. It probably took a whole cluster of crab legs to reel that one fish in on his frog he caught a few minutes ago.
So are you saying that maybe Jason Christie's slow 5 hours was due to overindulgence of crab legs?
Absolutely not. He would not have caught that one had he not eaten crab legs and shrimp last night. There's two ways to look at that. Yeah, but we had a great time. Good people all around this area, and Ryan looked out for us last night, and we really appreciate it.
The after the Classic thing, as a bystander, I've seen it go two ways. In some ways, for some anglers, and his turnaround is really quick. I mean, it's not even 2 weeks.
Yes.
But for some anglers, it almost becomes a safe haven because they're so busy doing so much media stuff, and then all of a sudden pre-fish starts and their phone stops ringing, and they finally get back to what they love to do.
Yeah, that's a great point. He probably is happy that he had a elite event this close to winning the Classic. Because bottom line is we all love to fish. I mean, sure, winning the World Championship is phenomenal, but they're all out here because they love to fish, and that's what got us all involved in the sport.
2 box right now with 2 Bassmaster Classic champions. The reigning and, of course, the 2003 Classic champion, Mike Iaconelli. "19 years separates their Classic victories, and that's a good sign of how cool this sport is. It's not like Iaconelli's an old man.
Right.
But you're looking at 2 great competitors, and there's no other sport other than Tom Brady because, I mean, he will never retire, it turns out. 40 days was enough.
Yeah, only for a month or 2 at a time.
What happened in that household? 40 days. I mean, I'm going back to work.
Or maybe she said, you need to go back to work. You know, it could be her saying, this time together isn't working out exactly like we thought.
I'm not shocked that he's coming back. I'm shocked that I really did expect him to come back. He never said retirement in his press release. But 40 days.
Yeah. I guess I'm most shocked that he's back with the same team. I thought that, this is just another move.
Back to fishing.
Yep.
Watching Jason Christie and Mike Iaconelli.
It's good to be back at B.A.S. Feel like it was a bit of a homecoming for me. I'll be honest, this is, I'm one of the old guys now. I'm in probably the last half of my career, and a lot of these competitors are in the beginning of their career. So I'm an older guy, but it feels good to be back. I think for me, this is where I want to end my career here. So it feels really good. Today has been good and bad. You know, it's been good because we picked an area and we've caught some fish. We've got a limit, which is good. But it's been bad because we only have one of the fish that you need here to do really well. So, you know, we fished in the upper lake this morning, and, you know, it's a small area. I really just feel like it was kind of done. And we made a move to the lower lake. And if you look, it's a lot of the same stuff. I'm concentrating on dollar pads. In practice, these fish were more in front of the spawning pockets, at the mouths. And now what I've done is I've pushed back. I'm still targeting dollar pads, but I'm more in the backs of the pockets. I feel like, you know, with the stability of the water and the warming water, a lot of these fish have moved up. So game plan is to fish 3 or 4 areas down here, see how we do. If we catch a few good ones, we'll finish the day down here. If we don't, we'll go on back to the upper lake, and I have a few more places up there. So got a good game plan. Just need to catch a couple more kickers.
1 Ike is not enough. Let's have 2 Ikes. 2 box all Ike. Obviously, his action from earlier today, currently sitting in 12th place with a limit of fish. And I think what he's talking about is probably going to be one of the most important things in this tournament, and that's moving. Because the fish, I mean, anglers were really excited on the dock this morning. I think the day off, and just the fact that the water started, you know, finally started to rise, started to go the right direction.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great tournament. And you know, Drew Cook's off to the best start, obviously, but that's not the only 20-pound stringer we're going to see today. And I really think that today will be the toughest day on the anglers overall, because being off the water with all the rain and the changes that go on in that 24-hour period, and as much as the water clarity changed in some areas of the lake.
They're right here. I mean, everything's
they'll figure it out more
and
more each day.
The food, the bait.
How many 20 bags we see
Still
today,
haven't
Davey?
seen a fish actually swim.
If his son would come out, it'd be better than. Oh, there we go.
Oh,
he's looking for some sun also.
that's not here, is it?
Yes.
Right
behind you.
I will not be here much longer. Ooh. That is a real-life dinosaur right there.
That is a big one. He certainly wants the sun to come out just like we do. No, to answer your question, I would say 8.
And today's the toughest day, you're calling.
Yes.
Wow.
But I think we'll see some flip-flop, so to speak. Maybe some guys that have a tough day today will do better tomorrow and vice versa.
Speaking of 20-pound bags, he had 25 pounds and change to lead this event back in 2000 on day number 1, Carl Jacobson. Biggest shot of the day belongs to our tournament leader right now unofficially, Drew Cook. And look at that marathon peak performance shot of the day. Man, 6'5", 6'5". I mean, those are numbers that a guy like me can't even add up, because I never saw a live well that looked like that in my life ever.
29 pounds, 6 ounces. And I hate to even phrase this way, but according to Santee Cooper's standards, he doesn't even have a big one. I mean, you expect to see a 7 or an 8 or maybe even a 9 in there with 29 pounds. He's certainly got room to upgrade that. And if I'm a betting man, I'm saying those are sight fish. And, it'll be so much better for him as this week progresses. So I don't see him backing off of having 20 pounds plus every day.
Do you back off at this point? With 29.6, I mean, like you said, he does not have a Santee Giant in there yet. But do you really want to call a 5-pounder out of your bag?
Well, if he is sight fishing, which I don't know that for sure, but we both know that he loves to sight fish. If he is, then that'll give him the luxury of, nah, that's a 5-pounder. I'm not going to fish for it. Mark it, maybe come back to it tomorrow, but he's looking for that 8 or 9-pounder, and it gives him that luxury to cover a lot more water. He's preparing for tomorrow, but he's also looking for that 8-pounder. So unfortunately, with 29 pounds, he is even more in the driver's seat than you might think if he's not sight fishing. But I would be willing to bet he's sight fishing.
Back with the classic champ, Jason Christie. One fish in the box, and that happened just a few minutes ago. But the key thing he said right after that fish, he was like, I learned stuff from that fish.
Yeah, and he said, I need to slow down. And I watched his frog the next cast. His slowing down was about like my slowing down. It's not real good. It's not real good. He's just a power fisherman that keeps his baits moving. It was surprising to me and interesting to watch him start every day of the Bassmaster Classic with a spinner rod in his hand, because we don't see that a lot from him. But
no,
he had a great plan. He had a great plan, obviously, and it worked out. Yeah, that's fishing a frog slow right there.
yeah.
That frog is moving, I think. But there again, that's slowing down for me too. He's not one of those guys going to let it sit for 10 seconds and move it 2 inches. These Santee Cooper Lakes really, you see Drew Cook's got 29 pounds, but it's not as easy. If you've ever fished here, you know that, man, you can go out there and fish for 4 hours like Jason Christie and not catch one. Everything looks great. There's so many targets, there's so many options, and there's so many miles and miles of fishable water that it's just not as easy as it looks oftentimes here. It's funny you mentioned about Drew Cook not having the best starts. Do you think this is a tournament that
if you look at
he's
his
a little
record,
overdue for a win, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if you look at his track record, day 2 on is when he does all his damage. And literally that's the conversation me and him had in the dock this morning. He's like, I need to go catch him on day 1. And he has done that.
Yes.
So, what does that tell you about him as an angler? To me, as an outsider, I feel like that just proves how good of an angler he is.
Yeah,
Not
I agree.
because he gets more dialed in as the tournament goes on.
And some anglers just have a tendency to do that more than others. But I agree with you. That's being more dialed in and not necessarily just going out on day 1 and getting off to a great start like Brandon Polnick did, and then just kind of fizzle out. But just learning the lake and becoming a better fisherman and more knowledgeable of the body of water that you're on each and every day. And I don't mean that negatively about he's overdue for a win. It's just high expectations for the Rookie of the Year for a fisherman like Drew Cook.
And he's been so close so many times. But we were saying the exact same thing about this guy right there. Just a little over 2 weeks, or a little over a week and a half ago, and he shed all